Algebra, Unit 10, Video 8, Solving Quadratics with the Quadratic Formula, Notes 8. Completing the square, yesterday's notes, of the quadratic equation ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 produces a formula that allows us to find the solutions to any quadratic equation. Any. So it doesn't matter if you can't factor any other way. Quadratic equation will always work, or the quadratic formula will always work. Alright, so if we start in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and we can take our a, b, and our c, those three coefficients and the constant, plug it into this formula. Now this formula you do have to memorize. There are many teachers that teach it different ways. I will show you a few videos in class of students who made songs or poems or dances that go with it. But all that is extra that you have to, I think, take creative time to remember. So instead, I recommend, the easiest one I can come up with is one that my statistics teacher taught me in high school. There was this negative boy. He could not decide if he wanted to attend a radical party. You see, the boy was pretty square, and he got turned down by 4 awesome chicks. The whole party was over by 2 a.m. A lot of my students tend to like that, so if you like it, use it. If not, come up with one on your own. Some teachers that are musically gifted will sing songs, or will sing the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat, or Happy Birthday to this formula. I can't do that, so I will spare you that. But you do need to memorize it. Now letter A, I'm going to skip, and we'll talk about that one later. We're going to do problem D and B together. We're going to start with D. That one's a little bit easier. So first thing, for me to have any of these, I need to have the quadratic equation in standard form. So the whole thing needs to equal 0. So letter D. This is not in standard form, so I need to make it. So I need to move this to the other side so that it becomes 0. So 3x squared plus 5x minus 12 equals 0. So all I did there was drop the wall and add 5x to both sides. They canceled. There we go. So now I have a equals 3, b equals 5, and c equals negative 12. Just aligning the coefficients with the letters, or the constant with the letter that correlates to standard form. So now my equation is a negative boy couldn't decide if he wanted to attend a radical party. You see the boy was pretty square and he got turned down by 4 awesome chicks. The whole party was over by 2 a.m. and this is how we find our roots, or our x equals, where this parabola was going to cross through the x-axis. Now, if you picture a parabola, that smiley face, the opening upward U, it should cross the x-axis twice. But if I shift it up or translate it up, it may not hit the x-axis at all. Maybe it only hits once. So our roots, we could have one answer, 2 answers, or no answers. So I'm going to plug it in and see if we can find some values here. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. And I'm going to extend my radical sign, and I'm going to put the negatives in parentheses wherever I can. All the party's over by 2 a.m. or 2 times 3. I'm going to clean up as I go. Negative 5 plus or minus 25. 4 times 3 is 12, so that's a negative 12 times another negative is positive 144 all over 6. So I get x equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 169 all over 6. So now this plus or minus idea, that's how I get 2 different answers. So one answer is x equals negative 5 plus the square root of 169 all over 6. And the second one is x equals negative 5 minus the square root of 169 over 6. Now if we do all of that, either in our heads or with a calculator, we should get x equals, the square root of 169 is 13, so negative 5 plus 13 is 8 divided by 6 is 4/3, or the equivalent decimal, or mixed number. I mean, whichever one you choose, they're all can be equivalent. And the next one, negative 5 minus 13, negative 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. So our two roots, our two solutions, are x equals 4/3 or x equals negative 3. X can equal both of those things. So we definitely have two answers for letter D. All right, letter B. Same thing, I need to start in standard form. So I have 10x squared minus 5x. I need to move this, so I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides, and I'm going to do that part in my head. And you should be capable of doing that and feeling confident with that right now too. And if you're not, go ahead, drop the wall and show the work. All right, so I have A equals 10, B equals negative 5, and C equals negative 25. So I'm going to use my formula. And again, I'm just going to keep practice writing it until my brain says, okay, this is obviously important. They just keep writing it. So a negative boy couldn't decide if he wanted to attend a radical party. The boy was pretty square, you see, and he got turned down by 4 awesome chicks. The whole party was over by 2 a.m. And these are the roots. So I'm going to plug in what I have. So x equals negative b is positive 5, plus or minus the square root. B squared would be 25. Again, I'm going to try to do some of this in my head. And again, you don't have to. If you want to go ahead and show each one of those. So since it's a negative, I'm going to put it in parentheses, negative 5 squared. Again, that's old. Please do not keep making these same mistakes. Minus 4ac, so minus 4 times a times c, which is a negative 25. Again, I'm going to put in parentheses just to keep it straight. And the whole thing is over by 2 times a. All right, so again, simplify as we go, and hopefully skipping some steps. So I have 5 plus or minus 25 minus, so negative times a negative is a positive, so I have 4 times 10 is 40 times 25. So plus 1,000 inside parentheses, and then 2 times 10. Again, simplify one more time. 5 plus or minus the square root of 1,025 over 20. Okay, so now I'm going to show this and kind of get rid of this plus or minus symbol here, unless I forget the minus sign. So I'm going to get two answers here. The first one is x could equal 5 plus the square root of 1025 over 20. Make that not look like a 3. There we go. And our second answer, x could equal 5 minus the square root of 1025 all over 20. Just type those in your calculator and get your answers. All right, your two answers. You should get x is approximately, again, because we're rounding, and we'll take it to the nearest tenth, negative 1.4. And our second choice is approximately 1.9. All right, so that takes us through letter B. I would like for you to do the rest of these on your own. So I know you have several to do, but it's not that difficult. You have a new formula that you need to practice writing and plugging in, When you have negatives, I would always use parentheses, whether it's on paper or on your calculator, always use parentheses. Otherwise, you're going to make those minor mistakes that you shouldn't be making anymore, or minor mistakes that cause you huge amounts of points that you can't risk. I want you to skip letter A. going to go ahead and skip that for a little bit, but I want you to finish the rest of these on the front. So C, E, F, G, H, I, so 6 problems. Remember, you have to put these in standard form. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Identify A, B, and C. Plug in your formula. Use your math. Clean it up. Use PEMDAS. And then eventually use your calculator to find the square roots if needed. Round to the nearest tenth. Good luck. Alright, on the back, we'll do one more together. So letter K. And the other two at the top I'll let you do on your own. So again, I'm going to start with this in standard form. So I'm going to rewrite it. I already have the equation equal to 0, so I'm just going to switch the sides so that equals 0 is on the other side, just so I'm more comfortable with it. Plus standard form starts with the ax, so let's start with that. So I have x squared minus 4x minus 12. I then need to identify my a, b, and c. So c is negative 12, b is negative 4, and a is 1. Then I'm going to use the quadratic formula to find the roots, or to find what x equals. A negative boy couldn't decide if he wanted to attend a radical party. The boy was pretty square, got turned down by 4 awesome chicks, and the whole party was over by 2 a.m. Plug in or substitute your values. So x equals 4 plus or minus the square root, negative 4 squared, minus 4 times 1 times negative 12, all over 2 times 1. So x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 48, all over 2. So x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus 48 is 64, all over 2. So I'm going to get 2 answers. So now x is going to equal 4 plus or minus, well, the square root of 64 is 8 over 2. Oh, this is going to be a nice answer. Since I can take the square root of this, I don't need to worry about using my calculator. I'm just using my brain here. So this piece is going to be broken up into 2 answers. X can equal 4 plus 8 over 2, or x can equal 4 minus 8 over 2. So 4 plus 8 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. X minus 8 is negative 4, divided by 2 is negative 2. So our solutions here are x can be 6, or it can be negative 2. And we're done. So please go ahead and do J and L on your own. And then, so pause the video and get those done, and then join me for the last piece here. In the quadratic formula, the expression under the radical sign, so the radicand from the beginning of this chapter, or the last chapter actually, whatever is under the radical is called a radicand. But if we're talking about the quadratic formula, we're going to give it a way cooler name. We're going to call it the discriminant. So the part under the radical, the radicand, in the quadratic formula is called the discriminant. So important vocabulary word there that will take you through the next couple classes of math. Not just algebra, but geometry and algebra 2 and trig 2. So discriminant is going to be an important vocabulary word to remember. So our discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. Not the square root, but what's under it. The discriminant can be used to determine the number of real solutions of a quadratic equation. All right, so here is a nice chart. So here are 3 equations. If I was to look at this first one, a is 1, b is 2, c is 5. I'm looking for the discriminant, so I'm going to plug in a, b, and c where they go. All right, so in this one, b is 2, a is 1, and c is 5, so I'm going to plug those in, and I would get, so 4 minus 4 times a times c 20 equals negative 16. So I'm just showing the work there. So that answer is already done for us. Just so you can see it, you would get negative 16. Now that negative 16 is a problem because the discriminant is inside of the radicand. Well, we are not ready for imaginary numbers or square roots of negatives. Not ready for that. So that means we can't really have any answers, which means that our graph here, our parabola, cannot intersect with this x-axis ever. There are no x-intercepts, there are no real roots. Okay, next one. X squared plus 10x plus 25. A is 1, B is 10, C is 25. If we plug those in, we're going to get 100 minus 100, which is 0. So there's that 0 answer. So that means there's going to be one intercept, where this parabola intersects the x-axis. There's going to be one answer, with that minimum there. There's one x-intercept. There's only one root. Okay, next piece. We have A is 2, B is negative 7, and C is positive 2. We plug those in, we're going to get 33. 33 is a nice number. It's positive, it's not a decimal, it's a beautiful number. If we have a nice positive number, we're going to get 2 x-intercepts, or 2 roots. And again, the roots are where our parabola intersects the y-axis. So we're going to get 2 roots. So whenever you get a discriminant that's equal to 0, there's 1 intercept. If it's a positive number, there's 2. And then the bad news, if it is a negative, there are no roots. So if we flip back to our first page and relook at letter A, now would be a good time to check that out and see if there are any roots. Or, sorry, if there are any real roots that we are capable of handling. So let's do a couple of these together.